Hey, Matt Sitter here, CEO of AFN. Our mantra at AFN is that change is where opportunity happens. And the best way to find opportunity in change is a network that is diverse in experience, expertise, and perspective. When we do our fireside chats, we are working to bring forward experts in different areas to help us think about some of the challenges that we're facing a little bit differently and take advantage of those opportunities. Today, we're talking to Bryan Rutberg, longtime colleague of mine. He's a veteran of McKinsey, HP, was executive comms director at Microsoft, and really focuses on speaking and speech writing now, helping execs communicate to their teams and customers in the best way possible. Bryan, awesome to be able to talk today.
It is always lovely to see you. Glad we managed to get this on the calendar and pull it off.
Um, Excellent. So as we talk through this, we're going to open it up for questions in the second half of the discussion. But just to get us rolling, yeah, a couple of things that I know you are passionate about is, hey, what does love look like with customers? And thinking about how we can impact folks with in-person gatherings. So just to kind of help us define the space a little bit, what's the difference between someone loving a brand and just liking it?
Yeah, let's be clear that we don't want or need, well, we could want, but we don't need every customer or
Okay.
client or donor or member that we have to love us with all their heart. The goal is to increase the number who do. And you look for certain signs with that. You like a brand, you may still be loyal to it. You may decide that there is a modestly placed bar in order to even consider moving along to another provider. But when you love a brand, you are engaged in that brand. You feel an emotional connection. You want that brand to succeed because you sense that they want you to succeed, and you are willing to do additional things. This is the difference between customers and what I've dubbed lustomers. The lustomers are the ones who not only are they loyal, but they are bringing others to your door. That's the head of Department A who introduces you to the head of Department B because they know that you've made a difference in their operations and they believe you can do the same for others and they view it as a favor to bring in someone else. Or they bring in a colleague from a completely different organization in order to share something valuable with them, right? They want to share what they know. So there's multiple ways of increasing revenue. There's the loyalty that they bring with their own engagement, and then there's the opportunities that they can bring you. And we all know, of course, that the best lead you can get is the one that's been referred to you because those tend to close faster, close for more money, close with less expense, and referred partners or referred customers tend to stick around longer. And the patience that they may have with you, the trust that they may put in you, is conveyed by the original referrer, which is to say, in slightly better English, or slightly more graphic English, if you screw up, your referred prospect is the one who says, "It's all right. I know my pal loves you. Let's give you a chance to get it right." The other things that come from a customer where you can determine, oh, this is because they love me, is the kinds of advice and validation that you get if you as an organization are good at using it and know how to ask for it correctly. And the way they can help you build
Okay.
brands. Well, you mentioned that I spent time at Microsoft. We used to ask members of our customer advisory councils and our partner advisory boards to speak to press and analysts on our behalf. They were the ones who showed up at our events and spoke to the assembled masses
Mhm.
because no matter how much a customer might love you, they know that the truth is more likely to come from the voice of someone speaking on your behalf than you directly.
So, I mean, three big things that I'm hearing from you is A, the customer that loves you, is going to stick with you longer. They'll buy more from you. They will refer people for you, but also from like the product development perspective, you can count on them to help guide you on the best ways that you can serve the entire audience going
Indeed,
forward.
product development, operations, process, uh, the way you do sales, the way you do customer support, the way you engage outside of a sales cycle or a support call, right? All of these things end up counting. Think about the executive briefing center that I ran at Microsoft. When you invite a customer or a partner, when we invited a customer or a partner to visit with us, it wasn't a reflection of, oh, there's a big deal, you better come so we can pounce on you and put our CEO or
Hmm.
our chief financial officer, chief operating officer in front of you. It was about things are going well. Let's get together and keep talking and
Right.
build the relationship, right? So it's not just there's the love, if you will, that's felt between a brand and its customers, partners, the audiences that they serve is not deal dependent. It just makes all the deals happen more easily. It takes the friction out of the relationship.
Sure. Sure. All right. Well, so let's just agree it's better for more customers to have stronger feelings about us.
Yes.
As you're thinking about like scoping the problem and how we actually work on this, what are some of like the canary in the coal mine measurements that you look at? Some of like the big picture things is like, hey, how do I know how customers feel about this in like a big picture way? But then obviously you can like go down to the granular side. But what are some of those signals on how
Yeah.
folks are feeling about you?
Uh, Certainly, there are tests of sentiment, everything from asking the net promoter score question, how likely are you to refer or recommend us to a friend or colleague, and watching your scores there, to the way that we look at our referral proportion compared to the rest of the marketing and lead generation that we're doing. I've worked with organizations that have segmented their customer base based on how much the customer spends and encouraged them to look not just at what they spend, but what's the indirect value that they bring to you. Because I'd
Hmm.
rather have a
Hmm.
20K a year customer who's regularly bringing me 100K a year customers than a 50K a year customer. Why is a 50K customer worth less than a 20K customer? Because the 50K customer, they're always at risk, where the
Right.
20K customer falls in love with you, believes in you, and believes that you are helping them achieve their mission more than just supplying them with a good or a service. And they're the ones who bring others to your door. So it's adding those kinds of measurements. There's also things like stuff we were talking about before we came online here, doing sentiment analysis of your social media. If you are more of a B2C or an active on social media B2B brand, what are people saying about you? And
Hmm.
when you ask them for something above and beyond, do they say yes? And that's as minimal as, will you take a call from our senior executive? We're just doing the tour, to, will
Right.
you serve on an advisory board for us?
What do you think are some companies' blind spots right now in terms of thinking about this? What are they missing?
No one falls in love with a brand, no matter how efficient it may be at getting operations done and putting stuff in. I count on certain things happening. There's baselines. When I make an order, it arrives on time. When I'm working on a
Hmm.
big problem, I get smart people bringing me ideas that I didn't have myself or couldn't myself fully flesh out. But when they're not paying attention to how they make you feel, when they're not engaging with you outside of a sales cycle, it
Okay.
doesn't look like anything more than transactional. So the difference really becomes transactional versus emotional.
Okay. So yeah, there's the table stake stuff, but then it's just like, hey, is there any other interaction that we get with this person other than when they are actually purchasing
A
the
LinkedIn
product?
study a few years ago, asking the question of B2B buyers, asked the question was essentially, how often do you hear from someone at a key supplier? And in the 6 months prior to a contract signing or during an original sales
Hmm.
cycle, the number was, way off the charts. Post sale, it became a you call us if you need us kind of thing. The number
Right.
of organizations that reported a touch within the prior 6 months, once they were regular customers, dropped dramatically. And we're not
Right.
talking about
Right.
email campaigns. We're talking about personal touch, connection
Right.
went way down. And it didn't even go up too markedly when it was time for contract renewal, which surprised the hell out of me.
Okay. Yeah. They're hoping to just be able to coast on that initial interaction.
Set it and
And
forget it. And I'm here to say,
okay.
if you forget it, you run the risk of
Right.
being forgotten yourself.
Um, who do you admire that's doing a good job on this right now?
Full admission, I haven't worked with these folks as a client, but I am a customer of theirs.
Okay.
And this is not, it is a personal touch without being an in-person touch. And I know we're going to talk about the power of in-person gatherings in a bit. Uh, Anybody who has a pet may know the brand Chewy.
Okay.
Can't tell you how many times I've heard the story of we got our regular standing order, showed up on our doorstep of our dog food or our cat food or the toys, the box of toys that we get every month. And I had to call Chewy and say, I'm so sorry, I need to return this. My pet passed away. And
Mm,
Chewy's answer is consistently, no, 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 no. Don't worry about sending it back to us. Keep it for your next pet, give it to a friend, or donate it to a shelter. And within a day or two, Chewy has sent flowers and a card to the person who's lost a pet.
yeah,
Talk
that's
about
amazing.
building an emotional connection.
Yeah.
Talk about finding an in and using it. And I'm sorry, I mean, all of us who have reached a certain age and have a certain amount of gray hair have probably lost a pet if we've invited pets into our lives.
Yeah.
So it's something we can all relate to. In the business to business world, I'm not shy about. I spent 6 years of my corporate life at Microsoft, and honestly, they do an exceptional job of connecting with customers, not only their global customers and partners, but among the visitors we always wanted to have at the executive briefing center were if you're the biggest bank in Peru or the biggest mining company in Australia or the most important widget manufacturer in Estonia, you're really important to the local teams, the country teams that serve
Yeah.
those customers. We wanted them in too. And what we did in Redmond, Washington, when companies would visit headquarters, had a ripple effect into the regions and the individual countries.
Hmm. Well, I see it is a crying shame that many pet companies treat the customers better than like pet insurance. Those people are so nice versus human health insurance. It's like, hey, what can we not pay for? Um,
Just earlier this week, I spent 45 minutes on the phone with my insurance broker. I was not in a good mood on Monday.
yeah, it's a bummer.
Yeah.
Um, so it's staying in the same vein. So, you gave us a couple of companies that you admire. Have you seen anyone be able to change their approach on this that you're like, oh, they're finally getting it? And what they do?
Well, I call those companies my clients, but there are other
Okay.
people who do what I do. And yeah, it is never too late to make more of an approach to your best customers. With my clients, I'll often start with a review of their books to see, who are your largest customers. Companies tend to know that. And then we go through the process of looking at, all right, and who's actually bringing you more customers? What's with the referrals, recommendations, and references that get offered? And from a recycling firm that has gotten into the business of turning some of their recycled plastic into plastic lumber and now has to sell that and open up a whole new market and the approach that they've taken with it to a hybrid publishing firm that works with authors who want to self-publish and now has a program in place in order to make sure that an author falls in love with them because of the
Hmm.
individualized attention they get, because of the predictability of the process, and because of the way the the publishing consultant that they work with actually becomes a fan of the book that's being written by the genre specialization that they now have. All of these, there's so many little ways to make a connection. It can start with as little as a thank you note from the right person in the
Okay.
organization or a
Yep.
call out of the blue from a senior executive.
Well, so I think ultimately, that this portends like a cultural shift within an organization, but it sounds like you don't have to change the culture to be able to start on this.
No, I'm not sure that's the lesson I was trying to put across
No,
because I
no, no.
do.
I mean that no,
Yeah.
I that's part of what I'm thinking about though, is just like, hey, if you can do stuff like doesn't mean that you change everything from the ground up. It means that you get started, is what I took
Yes,
away.
exactly. Yeah, the longest journey begins with a single step, as our friend Sun Tzu, I think, said. I look at three elements around which this transforming customers into lustomers, increasing the number of your customers who say, oh man, I love them, and whom you can ask to go an extra mile for you. I put it on three things. There's the way you communicate. Are you being audience focused and benefit led in your articulation? Do you understand what your customers, clients, members, et cetera, are trying to do? And are you framing your value in terms that are relatable to them as opposed to throwing out speeds and feeds and features? After communication, there's the programs that you run, how well you listen, what you do with what you have heard, loyalty programs, reward programs, programs to connect with your most important clients, events that you can throw. And here we're getting back to this
Yeah,
conversation we
right.
expect to have around the power of gathering. And after communications and programs, there's your culture. So culture is very much part of it. It's just asking, it's not just, it includes asking leaders when a change inside of your organization and your operations is being contemplated to ask the question of, have we run this by a couple of our trusted customers? Who are we going to surprise and who's going to be able to stand up and
Hmm.
say,
Hmm.
I helped them do that?
Right.
All right. It's the power of asking the question of what do our customers think, or have we run this by our customers, or is this being done to be more efficient in our operations or to solve a problem that we have in serving our clients?
Great. So shifting a little bit towards the in-person gathering side, and what we saw during COVID is it turns out some of us could do our jobs from home. All right. And so, everyone started doing their jobs from home, and the in-person gatherings became a little less common.
Didn't they though?
Um, and so, there's an interest, and you spend a lot of time thinking about this. So connecting the dots between that love and loyalty piece and what we see in in-person gatherings, how does an in-person gathering impact those feelings of love and loyalty, which is what you strive for?
Yeah. We did indeed figure out that a lot of work can be done, well, for a period of time, all work can be done, save for most the white collar work that many of us do, can be done remotely. And there are many personal advantages to working from home or 123 square foot office 2 blocks from your house, but
Hmm.
not having to be in face to face with your customers for every moment that you're doing business. And many organizations started to think, oh, the events that we put on for our customers, the events at which we are sponsors or we are exhibitors, or even that we just attend so we can glad hand and shake hands with the right people. We don't need those anymore. We've proven we don't need them. And then the pandemic ended, and organizations realized that, well, there is a power to personal connection. And the
Okay.
phrase that I used earlier, businesses run on discipline and operational excellence and things like that. But the best way to make a true human connection is in person. There is something about taking a moment out of time, getting people out of their regular mindset, and putting them together. You don't have to have a budget of millions or be a global multi-billion-dollar brand in order to do these things. The same can be achieved with modest events in back rooms of restaurants, of takeovers of bars, things like that. Or leveraging other parties' events where you can do things like sponsor, exhibit,
Okay.
or even just attend. One of the things that my co-author on this book that we're working on, Acts of Humanity, The Power of Purposeful Gatherings, one of the things that we're talking about is barnacle events. You're an influencer, you've got an audience. You know that everyone in your audience isn't likely to attend a car show, so you
Hmm.
go and you take one of these and you take your own mindset and you take your Instagram or TikTok account, and because someone else is throwing an event, you, by personally attending, can enlarge the circle that they reach, but also add value or while adding value to the
Okay.
audience that you reach. I mean, from that minuscule engagement, which doesn't actually bring anything more to the brand that's putting on the event outside of the sole ticket that they've sold, suddenly there's a magnification effect
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
there's many ways to use the power of personal gatherings. But the emotional connection of everybody getting on their feet after a keynote, or being able to go buttonhole a breakout speaker who's just run a workshop, or finding a colleague from across the world that you decide you're going to engage with more seriously, whether it's writing an article together or going after a market together. We used to see it all the time. But well, the last little bit here, when I was running Microsoft's executive briefing center, we would more often than you would think bring together executives from global organizations who otherwise rarely, if ever, had the chance to connect with one another. And it was
Sure.
not an
Sure.
uncommon request for us to, hey, after we've spent 2 days hearing about Microsoft Future Project and working on our implementation plans or considering our next big move, can we have the room for a day and just do an internal meeting? And
Hmm.
that's how lead marketers or lead financial minds or lead operations people from different continents manage to get together in person and connect. Right. So think about that as a barnacle event. Hey, we're going, it's not going to be our meeting with Microsoft, but we're going to
Yep.
just stay and we are going to latch on like a barnacle to make something meaningful happen here and build connection. Now that's internal more so than external, but you get the
Sure.
idea.
So I'm intrigued by the, going around and like filtering, basically saying like, hey, here's my interpretation of the event. How are conference providers reacting to that, like general sentiment? Are they saying like, this is a good thing for us? Oh, I'm not selling as many tickets as a result. Just like what's some of the prevailing sentiment that you're seeing around that?
Yeah, the anything that makes an event sticky and
Okay.
memorable, or the phrase we're using in the book, yeah, the purposeful events earn that title purposeful because they are memorable, meaningful, and yeah, magical, right? Like those of you who are fans of Broadway, like Brigadoon, this magical city that shows up for one day out of every 100 years. A great event at the scale that my co-author Scott Schenker is used to running events. He was the global event lead for companies like SAP and Microsoft and a few others, and worked with some of the world's biggest brand marketing companies. They're essentially taking an empty space, a convention center or a large hotel, and taking it from empty to magical and reflective of the brand and reflective of the brand's intentions,
Hmm.
and essentially building a small city that gets built up and then broken down
Yeah.
within 72 or 96 hours. Brands love to know how they can build stronger relationships, and events is one part of a considerable portfolio that they can use. When a company puts on an event or exhibits at an event and measures their return on relationship rather than typical return on
Hmm.
investment. It's not about the event breaking even. It's about how many sales opportunities get started. It's about how many relationships were deepened and dug more into. It becomes more about the outcome down the line, which can include the content you develop for an event that goes on to, after it's been created and curated and
Right. Right.
delivered, takes on a life of its own afterwards on your website, on YouTube, wherever it is you're posting this stuff, and serves your customers, clients, prospects for the following year until the next event.
Hmm. Um, this has really got me thinking. So yeah, the thinking about the event itself. So, before I was thinking about a couple different ways to think about this, but really I'm seeing three categories now based on what you said. Is one, like you can be a convener where you're actually holding the event, bringing people in. You can, be a sidecar where there's a big event.
I
You
like
might
that.
gather people around that. And then that third one where you're saying like, hey, I can actually filter the experience for you. And I think that that's an interesting portfolio
Yes.
to be able to look at around that. Not saying anything. I think all three of those imply there's work to be done afterwards to, all the event did a great job in terms of creating an experience, but then you can build a tail off of that
The
as
and the
well.
friendly amendment I'd offer to that is absolutely there is work to be done afterwards. We talk about creating, curating, and syndicating content, for example, and that syndication is what I was speaking of a moment ago. There is plenty of work to be done beforehand. Many folks, many organizations still put on events because, oh, we need to gather everybody because we have something to sell, or it doesn't need to be a conference or trade show. We're talking about marketing events here too, or things that fit a rhythm, and maybe you go on a, like I used to do in my HP days, you go on the 15 city tour introducing new products and such. Each of those is an opportunity to build connection and relationships and
Right.
take them further. But it's the intention that you bring and the things that you pay attention to before you even start to put a date on the calendar or plan a theme. It's all the stuff that gets done before the event actually opens its curtain and lets people in the door. So it's not just about what you do after, it's about what you do before. It's the intention that goes into it.
Great. Um, so we'll open it up for questions in just a couple minutes, but I wanted to, so thinking about where things sit right now in terms of the technologies that are offered. There's a lot of seductive ones out there in terms
Yes.
of like having our chatbots reply to things on our website. Oh, they know our voice, they've got all the information here, stuff like that. How do you feel like those complement an emotional connection well versus detract from it? And what do you think we got to do to be able to leverage some of these tools in a productive manner?
Yeah, no, the only way in which they will detract is if they're left to their own devices and declared to be enough, right? As we discussed, operational excellence is table stakes these days. Many companies do it well. Here in Seattle, my friends at Amazon, they run a really tight ship. Find me someone who says, I love Amazon because of the way they treat me. Maybe some of their AWS clients, I don't know enough about
Okay.
that, but
Okay.
on
Yeah.
the retail side, at least, they have turned operational excellence into, I mean, they've just taken it to whole new levels. And it's not creating an emotional connection. If you can find a better deal on product X from its manufacturer than you can get from Amazon, many people will go down that route, right? You're not
Right.
building the
Okay.
loyalty. So, uh, I things like chatbots to get simple answers to simple questions or even more complicated answers to questions, great, but there is not the same emotional connection of someone had to dig deep with me, someone had to go talk to multiple departments to get something done. I think of a lot of this stuff as being better for B2C and baseline of B2B than of the true value of building the true value of B2B connections, where the person who is engaging with
Right.
technology around your service to them is probably not the person who signs the checks or makes makes strategic decisions about suppliers.
Yeah. I mean, part of what's coming up for me is as you were talking, the tools that we've got, how does that provide the on-ramp for the personal connection, right? We've got to have that figured out that you're a lot of places I think have the attitude, hey, I'm trying to keep person time from being used here, um, and maximizing that. But what are the on-ramps that are meaningful for that personal connection?
Yeah, it's there's that great Latin phrase, reductio ad absurdum, right? You can take things to an absurd level. If you can run an operation with zero people at all, are you running a better operation? Well, I'm going to go ahead and argue, no, not really, because you miss the chance for the connection that can take things to a greater level. People tend not to, or organizations tend not to give you more out of the goodness of their heart. And we all operate in ecosystems that include,
Hmm.
many of us operate in ecosystems that include press, analysts, other influencers, and the customers or clients themselves who can become force multipliers for our sales teams and our marketing teams, but only if we ask. The
Okay.
percentage of people who will, of their own volition, raise their hand and say, "Oh, I love you guys. I'd love to talk at your next marketing event," or "I'd be willing to chat with press or analysts for you," or "I'm going to go out and make a referral." If you're going to make one referral out of the goodness of your heart, will you also act as a reference? Sure, I would. I'm happy to say nice things about you, but you got to ask first.
Hmm. Hmm.
So,
Well, so that was going to be my question is, how do you encourage customers to proclaim their love for you? And one of the things I'm taking away is you should probably ask.
not even, yeah, you're being cute. Yeah, if God bless my mom, 86 and still going, her famous phrase, which I'm sure a lot of moms have offered to their kids over the years, you don't get if you don't ask.
Yeah.
And there are, even in good relationships or great relationships, you've got to, I use the term activate, right? My business card calls me a customer activator, right? You've got to activate.
Right.
We've got to, one of the things that I've worked on with a client or two is segmenting their customer base by industry, by geography, and by the nature of the problem, or by their size and by the nature of the problem we solved for them. And
Okay.
now suddenly you've got a matrix that shows, well, if you're making a sale in Kuala Lumpur and someone did something similar in Kansas for a similar size or similar
Yeah.
industry,
Yeah.
or now you can cross pollinate. And now you are building your reputation in a way that you couldn't if you didn't notice such things, pay attention to them, and act on them.
Okay. All right. So it's not hard for me to ask many, many more questions, but
Yes,
I do want to open it up for other people
let's
to
get some
ask
other
questions.
questions.
So feel free to come on screen if you would like to ask a question or throw something in the chat. So uh, we'll open it up now.
Well, oh, and we've
There we go.
got.
Here comes Jess, fellow
Hi.
HP veteran.
Hi, Jess. It's a pleasure.
Hi. Yeah. So this was fascinating. Thank you so much for taking the time
My
to
pleasure.
come and chat. I feel like I learned so much. I was feverishly taking notes the entire time.
And I
Um,
hear there's going to be a recording made available, so
yeah,
you
yeah,
can check it out all over again.
I probably will.
Reruns,
Um,
please.
so one of the things that I've been kind of tossing around is with, I mean, obviously, like AI has changed the marketing game in a huge way,
Just a little. Yeah.
right? And I just wonder, and I know that we're still early days and everything's constantly evolving, but I sometimes wonder about all of the noise that is being generated in things like LinkedIn. And you can start to see like when people use ChatGPT more than just EM dashes, it's almost in like the vibe that's created. And it's sort of just, um, there's a lot of noise. And I think that for a lot of companies, there's also simultaneously this massive amount of pressure to keep up with the volume. And I'm just wondering, listening to you talking about how relationship oriented so much of this is, what are your thoughts on sort of both sides, like the pressure to make sure that you are top of mind, to make sure that people are seeing you among the tidal wave of content, the tidal wave of emails and all of that stuff. But simultaneously, do you feel like that can also be detrimental to your brand if you start to lean too hard into it? And I would just love to hear all of your thoughts around that because I think it's a huge topic right now.
All of my thoughts? Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Not even
But
my
you
wife
have,
wants to hear
time
all of my
constraint, so you'll
thoughts.
talk fast. No.
No, first of all, let me give you a gift that made me smile yesterday. Someone referring to the way that so many folks are now, all us influencers, especially folks who, work for themselves or have their own
Yeah.
story to tell, that style of writing
Mhm.
for LinkedIn that we're all so familiar with now.
Mhm.
Surprising comment, space, one line summary.
Yeah.
And that I heard it referred to as broetry, which just absolutely sent me. So,
That's funny.
brands need to be in the marketplace. They don't need to accept that the only way to do that is to follow the way everybody else is doing it. Right? There's plenty of that material out there in the world. That doesn't mean you need to add to it. It needs to be obviously a strategic decision. But even if you are in one part of your organization making an effort to keep up so that you are not forgotten, there's a reason Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Ford all advertise on a regular basis, even though it's not like 99.9% of the world couldn't do recall of those names. There is another tranche that you want to get to where the power of personal connection, which may include purposeful events for you, does play a role. That purposeful connection can be electronic, right? One of the things that, to go back to the Microsoft experience again, one of the programs we used to run in the executive engagement group was executive sponsorship.
Mm-hmm.
You as a senior leader from an important customer or partner company would get paired up with someone who was at a reasonable level inside of our company. And if they traveled through your region, if there was something that the sales team wanted them to do, they'd be in touch. Or they would simply touch base every 6 months or so to say, how's it going? We care. Where that really paid off was if something started going sideways in an implementation or a sales cycle, instead of getting mad, they would get on the phone and they
Yeah.
felt like they had a partner on the inside. So AI and its ability to write for us, it only is as good, as Matt was suggesting earlier, as the inputs that it gets.
Mhm.
And what it is not good at is personalization.
Yeah.
Right? Different organizations have different reasons for buying from us, right? Someone who buys, I don't know, a Volvo may be very interested in just how great the engine is and how long it's going to last. And someone down the street who buys the same exact make and model is interested in the side airbags and how unbelievably safe it is if it gets into a crash. How do you know the difference between those two? Well, that becomes part of the personal conversation you're carrying on with an organization.
Mm-hmm.
So AI, all for it. Try not to sound like everybody else. Be creative. And everything else, make sure that you're giving someone a personal sense of engagement with you.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you so much. And it's
Yeah.
interesting, like as you're talking about the executive sponsorship line, That's exactly what I was thinking of when you were talking about finding those 20K clients that are going to refer you 50K businesses. It's sort of the other side of sponsorship in a way,
Yeah.
which I immediately thought of that when you were talking about that. So thank you. Those were
Yeah.
really great.
Give me 30 seconds. What's your business? What's your work?
Oh, so I'm a part of the Six Wing team.
Ah,
So,
very good.
yeah, yeah,
We
yeah.
work together. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to work at HP though, in their
Ah,
leadership development organization. So we have that connection. It's a great organization.
yeah, I was low on the totem pole at HP. I was out in the field doing field marketing, product marketing later, and then got a chance to carry a bag and really found myself and my way of making connection when I got into the sales force. One quick story on the power of personal connection. When I took my first sales job at HP, I was part of a telesales center that covered the East Coast, and we were out of the Washington, D.C. area.
Mhm.
Once a quarter, I would go into New England, the states where I was responsible for working with existing mid-tier HP mini computer customers, and I would attend a bunch of HP mini computer user group meetings. Sometimes
Mhm.
I'd present, sometimes I'd just shake hands and make a personal connection with folks.
Yeah.
And as I began to, the most, the best story I've got on this is, are you familiar by any chance with the Vermont Country Store? The name probably conjures up something. Betsy
It
says,
does.
yes, she
Yeah.
is. They were a mail order catalog business at the time I was engaging with them in the early 1990s. They also had a physical presence, an actual store, but behind the store, they had warehouse space and they had, pick and pack operations. They ran their mail order business out of the same patch of land. They're now a sizable online presence. I'm sure they're still probably better known up and down the East Coast. But if you want candles that smell good
Yep.
or some sort of local delectable like fudge or popcorn, or
Mhm.
you want more flannel and plaid than you can shake a stick at, you want to go to the Vermont Country Store. They were a customer of mine. I went and visited with them. They walked me around the store, showed me all the stuff that they had, took me into their operations center, gave me a chance to shake hands, ask questions, learn their business. We never had a phone call again like the ones we had had before, and they were a good customer. We never had the same kind of phone call after my visit with them than we had had before, because suddenly I was seeing the people behind the conversations. I was living with them in the world of how they served their customers, and it became much less about, let me tell you why you should do this system upgrade,
Mhm.
than about, let me tell you how you can serve your customers better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great mindset enhanced by making that personal connection.
Well, it also makes me think about, I don't know if you've noticed this trend, and this is fake science according to Jess, right? But I've started noticing a difference in trend, in terms of, you used to see all of these brands that would be so buttoned up, right? And I was actually having a conversation with a friend of mine about this a couple of weeks ago. You would see all of these, like the Canva brands, right, that have everything very buttoned up, and you get the same LinkedIn like picture and the same Instagram picture over and over again, and you get very used to it, which there is neuroscience around why that's beneficial in some ways, right? But now it's almost like people are starting to just like hop on the camera and talk about themselves and their day. And I think there is a psychological element towards, especially with these smaller businesses, right? Where they're making you feel a personal connection to the humans, the individuals that are a part of the company. And I just think that's really interesting shift that's starting to happen.
Could not agree more. I spent time a while back. There's a software company that specializes in working with, enabling the operations of nonprofits.
Yeah.
And my work tends to be in advance of their annual big user group congregation, their own event. And it tends to be with product marketers and product managers who spend most of their year thinking about, well, should that button be in this place on the screen or that place on the screen? And should it be red
Hmm.
or blue or green? And when beginning to humanize their customers for them, this is how we get the most out of them as presenters when they show up at their annual event and have to get on a stage and talk to 100 or 200 or 1,000 of their customers, depending upon the size of the room that they're in and their topic.
Yeah.
When a brand begins to look at itself not as, well, we make software, but we enable people to raise more money for causes that they care about, saving those puppies and kitties, or cleaning up those wetlands, or contributing to curing cancer, or
Yeah.
better, because I am making software, I am helping to cure cancer.
Yeah.
This is the mindset that gets it going. And being able to deliver that as a human. Why do I work at Company X? I work at Company X because I care about the mission of my customers. And this really is the heart of where I live with my clients. It's like, if you don't if you can't be made to understand and then care about what your customers are doing with the product or service that you deliver and how
Yes.
it is helping them accomplish their mission and why that mission matters to them, you're leaving opportunity on the table. You're being
Yeah.
operationally efficient and you're being transactional, but you are not getting to their hearts, which is, let's bring it back. It's love and profit. It's
Oh, yeah.
hippie with an MBA.
Mhm.
Ultimately, we are in this for commercial reasons, but I think the world's a better place when we all start from a place of, no, I love the people I work with and I want to support and enable them so that they can be fulfilled too.
Yeah. Well, it makes me think of Wicked. Like, that most movies are promoted through trailers and things like that. But what's really, in my opinion, selling so many tickets with Wicked, it's the friendship between Cynthia and Ariana right now. I mean,
How
they are
very
leaning
interesting.
hard into humanizing all of that. And if you start looking at some of the advertisements they're doing, it's not Elphaba that's selling I think I don't remember what it was. It was some sort of sandwich or something, right? It's not Elphaba that's selling it. It's Cynthia playing Elphaba, engaging with her colleagues, right? And so they're really doing a good job with Wicked of making you fall in love and feel like you're a part of watching these love stories unfold. I think it's a really interesting shift that's
See,
happening.
now I know what my homework is because I was completely unfamiliar with that angle on the way Wicked has been promoting itself.
I mean, I'm assuming it's strategic, but it
Well,
is definitely present for
if
sure.
Mother
if
of two girls as
I
well.
know.
The
no, I hope
Wicked
it's
is not as big of a
strategic, but
topic in my house.
oh yeah. So no, strategic or not, it's effective. So if
Super
there
effective.
are other franchises in the movie world or in the broader world that we're trying to address through AFN and the work that I do,
Yeah.
who are picking up on that and thinking, how do we use that? Hey, it's all good. I have to admit, I haven't seen the stage show. I did not see the
I've missed
first
out.
movie. I know the second movie is coming out. Probably time for me to catch up on how they're marketing this because I know that Hollywood's been having a little bit of a rough last couple of months. So I know they're hoping that Wicked 2 is off the
Yeah.
charts.
If you rabbit hole on that, I would love to hear your thoughts because I think it's really interesting and make for good conversation.
We're getting ready to escape with our kids and their partners to the Oregon coast
Oh,
for Thanksgiving week. So that might take up some of my time. That and
sorry for
completing the
me.
writing on the book that'll be out in 2026.
Yeah, yes. Nice.
Acts of Humanity, the power of purposeful events. I think I said purposeful gatherings earlier, but it'll be somewhere. One of those.
Can't wait.
So we only got a couple minutes left. I want to make sure there's not any other questions out there. Any other
Jess, thanks
questions
a
that would
million.
like to be allowed? Hey, Shelley.
Hi, Matt. How are you?
Great.
Hi,
Um,
Shelley.
Hi, Brian. Nice to meet you. Thank you for your talk today. I don't know if I have a question, more of an observation. And first, to introduce myself, I am the president and CEO of one of 90 Better Business Bureau offices across the
Huh.
United States and Canada. So I'm located in Fort Collins, Colorado. I also serve on the International Association of BBB's board of directors.
Ooh.
So I completely agree with you and your comments today on the power of in-person gatherings and personal relationships. It's something my team works really, really hard at. Not only are we a convener of events, we also share our office space with the business and nonprofit community so they can have their own meetings and events in our space. So it's been a really big success for us. One thing I've noticed or observed past since COVID, prior to COVID and the pandemic, when we would host a virtual event, we would always expect a 50% no-show, but our in-person events always had a significant percentage of turnout, maybe 10, 20% no-show, and that was even for our free events. What I've observed since the pandemic, and I just really try intentionally myself not to be a no-show, is no-show rate for in-person gatherings is high. A lot of ours, especially if it's a free event, is trending around 50% no-show rate. And our team works really, really hard, and we get awesome feedback from our attendees. You know, this is the best networking event I've been to in months. We do a really good job with the personal touches. I don't know if that's something that you've observed as well, and if that's just human behavior, that we're just so busy and we've become almost, I don't know, complacent in our commitments to attending.
Oh, such an awesome question. We're speaking, of course, of more local gatherings, right? Few people spend $1,000 or more on a ticket to an event they've got to fly to and get a hotel room for. That you get fewer no-shows in that kind of environment. But for the local, we're renting out a hotel, restaurant, or a ballroom, or a some sort of other venue. I absolutely see that. It's not so much that I have worked with as a client the Seattle Chamber of Commerce, but I do attend some number of their events and have had a chance to hear this same concern or complaint. Couple of things that I'd think about in preparation for this is how are you trying to build community online before you look to take advantage of it offline? Even around a specific event, publicizing who's going to be there or creating connection between two people. You're going to be there and you're going to be there. Why don't you get together and talk about what is your objective for this event? Increases the likelihood that people will show up because suddenly they're feeling like they've got an obligation or an accountability buddy, call it what you want. I've seen organizations put together one-pagers, if you will, for who do you want to meet? What do you want to get out of it? What's your objective? What are you bringing to the table? What's the story you're going to tell? And just that mental space that begins to occupy increases the likelihood someone is going to hop on the bus or get in their car and get to something because suddenly they're feeling emotionally connected to it. Years ago, I worked with a nonprofit working with one of their executives to help write her speech and help her prepare to deliver it. And it ended up growing into the opportunity to create a 4x6 postcard that had a question related to the organization's mission on one side, and on the other, it was a postcard. It had a place to put in your name and address. As people circulated around the event, and this could be done beforehand as well, you ask a question of what is your connection to our mission, or what is the thing that you want to get out of this? We exposed for others the reason why folks were there, in this case, literally putting them on a bulletin board with that reasoning showing out. We offered anybody who completed both sides of the postcard and allowed us to put it on the bulletin board a prize. There were 3 magnums of wine made available by sponsoring partners for any. We blindfolded a kid, spun him around, and had him go touch 3 of the postcards. And by getting our audience to engage with, in this case, the mission of the brand of the nonprofit, and begin to think about what it was that mattered to them, plus the peer pressure of watching others complete this stuff, and the value of the prize we were offering as a possibility for having done so. At that particular event, same number of people, they were using literally the same room at the same property for this. We had a take that was 50% higher than we had received the year before. Now, the point of this was the fundraising, but it also dramatically grew emotional connection to the brand. And it allowed us to use the postcard with a sticker put on it with a save the date 8 months later to let people know, hey, we're doing it again next year. Here's a reminder of why you liked this, why you care about it, and you were here last year, so don't you want to join in the fun again? That's perhaps a little more structured or highfalutin than what you're after, but giving folks a reason to be there beyond there's going to be networking and there's going to be cocktails is what starts to get folks to show up. And with all of that said, I think we've entered an era, thanks to pandemics, where folks are just less likely to take their own time, especially if they haven't put money on the line to attend things. But let's go from 50% to 60% attendance. That's still an extra 10%.
Yeah, I love that idea. It's also built in testimonials from your attendees and feedback. You're getting feedback based on what they're writing on that postcard.
There's the social proof.
Yep.
And there is this sense of, if you do give folks a reason to show up by, say, connecting to them, now you've got this sense of accountability.
Yep.
Beyond that, there's nothing that makes someone say, I feel special about this, other than the fact that it's been put on their calendar. Let's give them a reason to want to show up, and that is the human connection. You're going to meet someone who's going to make a difference for you.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. What a delight to have the conversation. Thanks, Shelley.
All right, we're at time.
Amazing.
So, unsurprisingly, there was a lot to talk about. And obviously, if you guys want to connect afterwards, just let us know and we'll hook you up. But Bryan, thanks a ton for spending the time. Really good conversation. I know I learned a ton.
I'm so glad. My pleasure. I think a lot of what I do is turn the observable into the obvious, right? It starts to sound like, oh, of course, why wouldn't we do that? Because we are all at heart humans. We love, we feel, our hearts beat, we go through the same experiences, and we want to feel that connection.
Good stuff. Well, have a great rest of your week. Have a good Thanksgiving, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you, Matt. Always a pleasure.